we're on target to do about 1.5 million this year, and I mean, if you told me in year one that I would be on track to do that, I would have been like, no way, it's not gonna happen.
This is in your gym?
Yeah, between our gym and our camps. Wow.
Yeah. You don't see many gyms on track for 1.5 million. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chad Reed and you're watching Cheer Coaching Academy. I am here with Dan Cotton, one of the owners of Next Gen Gym Owners. He has got out Next Gen Academy, and I've listened to what he says about it, and it's an amazing resource if you're a gym owner. If you're a school coach, this may not be for you, but there will be some good nuggets in here for you if you want to stick around. So Dan, welcome to the YouTube channel, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into cheer, and what's led you to where you are.
Okay, well, buckle up. That's a long story. I mean, we're talking about what got me into cheer. So I started out as a gymnast when I was a wee little lad. Did gymnastics all the way up to high school, and my mom said, "You know what? Gymnastics takes up too much time." And quite frankly, I was a mediocre gymnast. I always wanted to go to the Olympics, but that was never going to happen. And she was like, "You should try cheerleading." And I said, "Okay." So as a freshman in high school in the early 90s, well, I guess, yeah, early mid 90s, I started cheerleading. And so I'm from Oregon, started cheerleading at my high school. Fell in love with the sport. Little did my mom know it was then going to become an all-consuming lifestyle for me. Graduated from high school, ended up cheering in college at the University of Oregon. That was back when we did compete at the U of O. So did sideline and competition there. Also started coaching in All-Stars. There was a local All-Star gym that one of my teammates said, "Hey, they needed some help with a tumbling instructor. Do you want to come help teach a back handspring class?" And I was like, "Sure, sounds good." Next year, I took on my first team. That was back when it was junior prep, was a division. So not to date myself, but that was like 2003. And I started coaching at that point, and I really fell in love with coaching. Coached all the way through college. When I graduated, I actually commissioned into the Army and to the National Guard. So I was really focused on going into the military, becoming a police officer. That was like my life focus. Met my wife at Jams Nationals, or who would become my wife at Jams Nationals. Ended up moving, started coaching at the gym she was working at. We got married. I went to Iraq, came back. The gym was not in the greatest condition. The owner had kind of checked out. It had gone from a really big gym to now a really small gym, was kind of struggling financially, and he was going to close it. And my wife and I sat down and talked, and we said, "You know what? We can do this thing. We can do this thing better than he's doing it. We can just crush it." So we made a proposal. We bought the gym that we were coaching at, which was Oregon Dream Teams. So we purchased the gym with like 45 competitive athletes, and had no idea how to run a business. And quite frankly, had good competitive teams, but ran a really bad business for like the first 3 years of being in business. We didn't know what we didn't know. We thought, well, we're good coaches and we love our kids and we love cheerleading, so the rest will figure itself out. And none of that stuff relates to understanding how to price your program, understanding how to make sales, how to run a website, how to promote enrollment, all those different things. And so there kind of came a point in our lives where we went, man, we need to figure this out, which we did. We joined a group getting some business coaching, which is where the now owners of Next Generation Gym Owners all met. We all met in the same coaching group, kind of in the same point in our growth as gym owners. And there came a point where we kind of outgrew the group we were in, and we left, and we said, there's still a need in this industry. There's still so many gym owners that don't have the knowledge of how to run a good business. They're great people. They're great coaches. They come from a great point of view, and they're in this for the right reasons, but man, they're killing themselves to not make any money, and their gyms are closing. And so that kind of became our mission to help gym owners take their passion and turn it into a profitable business.
That's amazing. And I used to own a gym. We opened in 2008. So the perfect time to open a gym is right when a recession happens, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it was
absolutely.
right in the middle of it, right when it first started. So we opened our gym, and I had always thought that I wanted to own my gym. And I had several false starts because I was a good coach. I was above average coach.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had the mentality of, if I'm going to work as hard as I'm working, why make somebody else the money? That's
Mm-hmm.
always been my mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So I always wanted to own my own gym and call the shots. And when I got into it, it was very similar to yours. It was like, yeah, I don't know anything. Like, I can coach a back handspring, and I can coach a winning routine, but you're talking about P&Ls, you're talking about marketing, you're talking about all this other stuff.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm doing. And it was a rude awakening for me.
Yep. Yep. And the rude awakening of, we a lot of people have that mindset. Why am I working so hard to make someone else the
Mm-hmm.
money? And then you find out that someone else in a lot of these cheer gyms, they're not making any money. Those gym owners are working for
Yeah.
free. They're working for $100 a month, or, oh, it covers my cell phone. They're working 60 hours a week. And that's where Next Gen comes in and says, we gotta help you fix this, because people close their gyms because they're not making money, they're exhausted, and they can't do it anymore. And there's better opportunities for them. You got to put food on the table. You got to take care of your family. This industry, this sport, being a gym owner can do that. It can be that answer, but you got to actually run your business effectively. You got to know what you're doing, and you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
I tell people this all the time, but it's like, imagine if a kid came into your gym and they said, you gave them the pitch, you gave them the tour, you said, hey, sign up for these classes. You say you want to get your back handspring for your high school tryouts. We got the answer. Here's what you need to do. 6-month plan. We can help you get your back handspring. And the kid goes, you know what? There's some really good videos on YouTube. I'll just figure it out that way. You would say, good luck. That's probably not going to work. Maybe they do. There are those kids who teach themselves to tumble in their backyard, but man, it's a hard process, and they're not going to have the best technique. You can do that as a business owner. There are YouTube videos out there. There are all sorts of great resources. There are books you can read, and that's great. But at some point, you might want a coach who's been there, done that, and can guide you through the process and expedite your growth. So instead of it taking you 5 years, takes 2.
Right. That's the key. And I like to say that coaches need coaches.
Absolutely.
That's what CCA does, is it helps coaches with their confidence and their knowledge of the sport. And like you said, what you don't know, you don't know. And it's hard to understand the depth of what you don't know once you get into it. What do you think is holding a lot of gym owners back, especially smaller gyms, from realizing that they need help?
Well, I think there's a couple things in there. I think a lot of gym owners do know or at least subconsciously know that they need help. They know that they're not financially doing as well as they would like to be doing. I think there's an element of pride, and fear of asking for help. We exist in a very judgmental industry. And so for a period of time, the idea of like getting a business coach for your gym was almost like an admission of, I'm not good at this. And I think we've started to, as an industry as a whole, that stigma has started to be broken down, but it's kind of like men in therapy, right? A lot of guys don't go to therapy because they don't want to appear like they're weak or broken, but really it's just therapy is a life
Hmm.
coach,
It is.
right? And so it's a similar thing where I think that is a part of it, is just a getting a coach is not an admission of failure. It's actually it's an action of taking back control of your business and your gym. Um, so that is one hesitation. The other is a issue of people don't think they can afford it, right? That's what we hear the most. I can't afford it right now. It is expensive. It's not cheap to join our
Right.
academy. Like, you're not going to pay $100 and get access to a coach and the amount of hours and knowledge and resources that we have. That's not how it's going to work. And anyone who's going to sell you that, they're probably not going to give you a great product. Because anyone worth their value, like who knows their value and knows how to price things well, is going to know their value and price themselves correctly.
Completely agree.
So it's an issue of I can't afford it. And I think there's two elements there. One is, have you read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
I have not. It is on my list.
Okay, fantastic book. But one of his points that always resonates with me is the poor dad mindset. And he talks about he had his biological dad was his poor dad. He worked in education and he had a poor mindset. And then he had a mentor who was his rich dad, who had a rich man's mindset. And he said the difference between my dad would always say, we can't afford that thing. We can't afford that. And my rich dad would always say, how can I make it so I can afford that? How do I get to a point where I can afford that? And that's, I think, a key component as a business owner of like, okay, I know I need this thing. So how can I make it so I can afford it? And I also tell people this all the time is, all right, you can't afford it. But the real question is, can you afford not to get help?
Mm-hmm.
How long can you sustain doing the same thing, changing nothing, and stay in business? I mean, if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Every time. So you have to overcome that risk on top of that fear of I can't afford it. On top of that, there is this problem with the keeping up with the Kardashians or keeping up with the Joneses in the cheer industry. The average small gym owner will happily spend $3,000, $4,000 to bring out the best choreographer to their gym to do choreography for their routines. And they'll pay $4,000 per team to get choreo for a routine. That technically doesn't make them any money.
Right.
Might win them trophies, but those trophies don't pay bills. And then you can tell the same gym owner, or they'll pay $5,000 for a cheer mix, right? You have experience making cheer mixes. And I'm not saying those don't have value and they don't take work and that people shouldn't be compensated fairly. But what I am saying is they'll happily do that. They'll see Top Gun wearing this Rebel uniform that costs $700 and they go, I need that. I'll pay that so my kids have all the bling and so it says Rebel on it. I'll pay for that. I'll pay $700 a uniform for a $20,000 total bill. But you can tell that same gym owner, hey, you can, with an investment in your knowledge and getting coaching on how to run your business, you can get a 3 to 5 times return on investment. You're going to pay about $6,000 over the course of the year getting coaching. And that's probably going to make you anywhere from $24,000 to $100,000 in the knowledge you're going to learn and the things you're going to be able to implement in your gym. And you'll have gym owners go, I don't think I can afford it. Oh, but I can spend $10,000 on choreography. Yep. I'm in, right? Because that gym down the street did it. So that also, I think, holds us back in the industry in terms of people feeling like they can get coaching. And also just knowing what the resources are out there. So that's why I'm so excited to be here and be able to tell more people about what we offer. Because I routinely encounter people who are like, oh, I've never heard of next generation gym owners before. I'm like, man, we've been around for 4 years.
I know that feeling because when I had my gym, We weren't in a big city. I mean, there was like 90,000, in the county, which isn't
Yep.
small, but it's not, Atlanta. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we were in the same spot. And 8 years later, we would still get phone calls. How long have you guys been here? I've never heard of you. And it would crush me. I'm like, are you kidding? We haven't moved. Rome is not a big city. And it was just like,
Yeah. How have you not driven by us?
yeah. And so it was like, I did not know how to market. I'm the first to say it now. And ironically, that's my business that I own now is a marketing and branding agency.
Mm-hmm.
Because I learned from that experience, I had to learn how to market. Um, but it was crushing just to know that we were there for so long and still get phone calls and be like, we've never heard of you. Or
Yeah.
are you like the other gym here? I'm like, no, but I mean, yes, but no, we're not. We're different. But yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow. So I mean, I'm glad that you're here and sharing this because I think gym owners, yeah, if you were to come ask me, not knowing what it was that you have to offer, you paid me $6,000, and in 4 years you'll get 100 grand back. Well, there's no S&P mutual fund or stock that you can
Right.
invest in that will pay that return. Nothing. And
Yeah.
I'm,
Absolutely.
I mentioned off air that I like to watch and listen to Alex Hormozy. And one thing that
Mm-hmm.
he says a lot is you need to invest in the SME 500.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep. He's a big proponent of have money set aside for your own
yeah,
education as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. So
exactly.
um,
So before you put any extra money into, and this is what he says, and I tend to agree. Before you put any extra money into investments, stocks, mutual funds, whatever, if there's something that you're liking in, invest in that for yourself so that your business can grow and your
yeah,
gym can grow.
absolutely.
Because then you
Absolutely.
can put more
And
into it later.
I've had this discussion with gym owners too, where I'm like, we see people all the time being like, oh, well, what mats should I buy to increase my enrollment in tumbling classes? Well, those two things don't have any correlation. I've uh, I've worked in gyms. I've been at gyms for our while. Our gym had one wedge mat, two 8-inchers, and two panel mats, and we had a world's team with double. And I mean, we had a tumble track too, but we had double fulls. We trained all the things. Like you just got to get creative. But people will spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 just buying
Yeah.
mats year to year to year to year to year, and you could pay that for coaching. And one of the things people bring up too, and or think about with coaching is like, you need a coach in your life as a business owner because you need someone else who's dispassionate, who's disconnected from, who like cares about your business, cares about you, but doesn't have the emotion. It's one of the challenges of being a gym owner is most of us are in this because we love it. It's a
Hmm.
passion, right? We're here and we have emotion and we have emotional connection to our kids, emotional connection to our staff. And unfortunately, when you make business decisions from a position of emotion, it's going to lead you down a more difficult
Hmm.
path. We want to be able to look at things critically. And so having a coach that you can bounce things off of, who's there for you and who can say, yeah, I've been there, I've experienced that. Like there is almost nothing you can say, I'm having this problem that I can't be like, yeah, I've been there.
Right.
Like I've been there. The only thing I can't say is if you go, I have a gym in a small town, that I can't say I've been there because I live right outside of the Portland metropolitan area in Oregon. There's over 2.5 million people within 25 minutes of my gym. So, like, but that's a whole different level of
It is.
problem. It's a whole different challenge because when you're in a small town, like right down the street, I have a huge gymnastics gym. I have a Defy Air Park that offers birthday parties. I have things that There's a million different things that you can do. So now I have to find a way to market myself and be above the noise and get people to know who we are, which is sometimes
Yeah.
harder when you have 80,000 businesses to distinguish yourself from. So, but anyways, not to digress, there are so many things that you experience as a business owner that like, and as a coach, even like your resources with coaching, one of the hardest parts about being a business owner, being a coach, is sometimes you feel like you're alone on this island, especially as an owner, right? Because you can't go to your staff to talk about your problems, or you shouldn't. If you are, don't do that. um, and so you're alone and you're like, who do I talk to about this? I actually just had a call last night with one of my clients. She's been with me forever. And she broke down talking to me about, she was thinking about cutting a portion of her gym, but it was a portion that she loves, but it's just not profitable right now. And she loves it. It's a passion for her. She started crying and she's like, this has been weighing on me so heavily and I just couldn't talk to anybody about it. And I'm like, girl, that's what I'm here for. Like, you should have talked to me 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. Because we could have started working through this and strategizing. But it's really nice to then join a group. We have like 135 gym owners in our academy right now. And to get access to not only a coach, but a community of owners who all support each other and all know each other. And you can go to and ask questions, not just of your coaches, but other owners, and like stop feeling so alone is it's intangible. Like, it's hard to put a price on something like that of what it is worth to have that resource in your time
Yeah.
of need.
Having that community is so key.
Yep.
I'm trying to build Cheer Coaching Academy the same way and have a community. And I relate it to, so me and my wife, we're in our small group at church. And see, I'm new to the area. So I just moved down here in 2020. So I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a chance to really, because that's when COVID hit too. So I haven't had a chance to really get out and meet a lot of people. And I mean, I work from home, so there's that too. But having that small community of friends in that group, that on a personal level, and this is aside from business, but I think it relates. Having that small group of guys that I can go to anytime and talk to, and they can come to me because I'm the oldest one in the group. It's such a key resource that I think, you mentioned earlier, like it shortens the learning curve. So I've learned something a lot longer, and if they can get that advice from me, they can learn it a lot faster and move down the road a lot faster. Gym owners is the same way, and your community is the same way. Um, there's always somebody out there who's dealing with your exact same problem or have dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
And sharing that advice and sharing that experience, because we can talk to people and we can tell them, say, you should do this, you should do this. But look, I've been there. I've experienced this. This is what I did to get out of that. That's
Yep.
going to get
Absolutely.
more of a positive response than this is what you should do. You know,
Yep. Yeah. And uh, I always tell people like, um, amateurs give advice, experts diagnose.
yes,
And it's really easy to go to a group, right? And so if you go to one of the mass Facebook groups, and you're like, I have this problem, and then you have all these people hopping on and being like, oh, do this, do this, do this. And oftentimes, when I choose to engage, a lot of times I'll ask some questions in my response, right? Because I need to know
right.
more, right? If you just go into a doctor and you go, ah, man, my arm hurts, like something's a little bit weird in here, and they're like, oh my god, you have cancer, we've got to operate right now. What? Like, no, I hope you're going to ask me some questions first. Right? Like, oh, did you fall? Did something, right? We got to ask some questions to be able to diagnose. And the same thing goes with being a coach or being a gym owner. Like, I'm having this problem. Okay, tell me
Yeah,
more, right? Because if we just talk about the symptom, we're not getting to the cause. So if you're like, man, I'm not making any money, Okay, well, you'll have what's the most common response you'll see from people when they go, our gym's just not making money? Like, what would you say? What if you were to guess what you would see the most common piece of advice that people immediately go
Well,
to? What would you think it would be?
it's funny you bring that up because I've actually had a conversation with two coaches in a group, and I don't know if it's what you're thinking of, but my
Yeah.
response was, "How many classes do you offer?" That's my
Hmm.
response because
Yeah.
owning a gym, when we had our class program smoking, we were making more money.
Right.
Um, I would guess that most people say raise your prices.
That's actually not what most
Okay,
people say. Most people say you need to get more people, get more clients, right? Like,
is
get more people coming in the
okay.
door.
So let me ask you this: Is that the equivalent of a judge on a score sheet saying get your jumps higher? Like, no
Yep.
joke. Like, I know that. I'm
Yeah.
fully aware of that. Like, that would help solve my problem. That would help solve my jump score getting higher. Just
Yep.
just getting more
Absolutely.
people in my door. Okay, let's do that.
Absolutely. Very equivalent. And so oftentimes people will go, oh, well, you need to market. You need to do this. You need to get more people coming in the door. And what I get to on like the asking questions, right, is I need to ask some questions before I say that. Because maybe getting more people isn't your problem.
Yeah,
Like, well, how many enrollments do you have? Oh, well, we have 350 kids in the gym. Okay. You have 350 kids and you're not making any money. What we need to drill down into that, because you getting another 50 kids is not going to change this problem. So what do we have going on? Oh, well, okay. So what's your staff cost? Oh, well, you know, we've got 32 staff. Well, that might be your problem. You're getting a bad ROI on
yeah.
that. Or maybe we need to look at, well, what do you charge? What are you charging for your classes? Oh, we charge $35 a month. Well, that's why you're not making any money. You, Great, you have 350 kids at $35 a month. Like, you're not making
That's
much.
math.
So you have to ask questions to get to those answers, which is again where you need. This is why when people would say, well, I can learn things from a video. Yeah, you can, but you now got to backwards plan that, and you've got to ask yourself those
Mhm.
questions. Like having a coach who can ask questions and learn what's happening. This is why you said you've coached tumbling,
Yes,
right? When you're coaching tumbling, do you ask questions of the
of
athlete?
course.
If you're a good coach, you
Yep.
do, right? What did you feel? What do you think you could have done better on that one? Right? Because we're teaching them to be their best coach as well. But we're working collaboratively with the athlete by asking really good questions, and that helps us diagnose what's going on. What were you thinking about?
Hmm.
Oh, I was really thinking about I was really thinking about lifting my hips in my layout. Okay, you definitely were thinking about that, but that translated into your shoulders. That How do we lift our hips? Oh, well, I engage my glutes and my hamstrings. Right. Were you thinking about that? No, I was thinking about just lift
Hmm.
hips. All right, well, let's think about engaging your glutes and your hamstrings. Right. And now and we got there by asking good questions and then diagnosing the problem for the athlete. So not to like totally change gears, but you had also at the start of your podcast or YouTube
Hmm.
video, you were talking about your clients that are potentially coaches, and you'd previously mentioned that you have a lot of like youth program
Hmm.
coaches or people who work with youth programs. And I would actually argue that most youth programs are your businesses.
Yeah.
You're a lot of you, especially like in our area, they're all either nonprofits or small LLCs that have anywhere from 30 to 60 kids across grades 1 through 8, cheering sideline, doing those things. And a lot of the principles that would relate to running a good cheer gym are going to relate to running a good youth
Hmm.
program. And even if you're a nonprofit, you want to know how to run a good nonprofit business. You want to get more members. You want to have more athletes participating and provide more opportunities. And that's what bringing in revenue allows you to do. It allows you to offer those opportunities and do those amazing things for your kids.
100%. And if I could go back just a little bit, I'm so glad you said what you said, because I learned this way too late, in my opinion, in my coaching career. Um, I would do it. I would ask questions in tumbling, but also in stunts. So if a stunt just kept falling, wasn't working, I would go around the table, so to speak. Ask the flyer, what are
Yeah.
you feeling? Main base, is that what you feel too, or where do we stand on that? And I would go ask each person in the group what they feel, because if they don't feel it, they can't correct it. You know, we can
100%.
stand in front of the mat and just bark at them for 2 hours, but if they don't feel it, they can't correct it. They're the ones that have to correct it at the end of the day.
Yep.
And that
Absolutely.
helps them, like you said, self correct and start developing that mindset of self correction, but in a stunt group working together. And if I can get
Hmm.
a stunt group to work together like that, that's going to help in a lot of areas and not just that one stunt.
Yep. I, and they both correlate, right? So I do that with stunt groups, and I do the same thing, because guess what, guys? I'm not going to be on the mat when you're
Nope.
competing. So if something's off, I'm not going to be able to tell you, "Hey, you're not on the heel," or "Hey, back spot, get your fingers up, start lifting." Like, I can't tell you that. You've got to be able to diagnose, "Okay, I'm feeling this. This is the right
Yep.
response." And the same thing goes with being a good gym owner. Like, at the end of the day, having a coach is not to have someone make all the decisions for you. And that's, I think, where some people go wrong when they look at business coaching, or they look at even joining our academy, is they're like, "All right, I've got someone who can just do it now. They're going to tell me what to do." Yes and no, but you've got to, like, I'm not going to be there for every decision. My next gen coaches aren't going to be there every time you need to make a decision. You're going to have to start making those things on your own. We're going to be able to help you guide your decisions. And so we're going to work together, and then you're going to go out and you're going to do the work.
Mhm.
And then we're going to evaluate that work. Same thing you would do with coaching your athletes on the mat. So they have a lot of correlation between the two.
They do. I think all that's great. I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing. If you can share, what do you see right now that gym owners are lacking from the ones that you talk to? What areas are they lacking in the most right now?
Um, it's kind of it's a little broad. So many. Not to oversimplify, I would normally just say uh, in
Yeah,
profitability. Um, but that's kind of just, that's a little too
sure.
general. I think the biggest areas that people are, gym owners as a whole, are struggling in is in understanding how to effectively build brand and market their brand.
Yeah.
That would be one. Two would be understanding pricing, and how pricing can impact the perceived value of their business, and actually increasing their pricing can increase uh, their the value of their
Hmm.
clientele. Um, and then number three would just be overemphasis on outside influences that shouldn't be the people making the decisions for how things run in your gym. And that would probably be one of my biggest ones, is seeing people only focusing on what is the new score sheet going to be, and what is the new age grid going to be, and this rubric and that rubric, and oh my gosh, you're destroying my business. And they if one age grid release from USASF is going to potentially destroy your business, then we've got some significant problems, because that shouldn't be the case. Your business should be able to survive what any of those things that come out. Um, and so I think those would kind of be the three biggest ones I see. Um, yeah, I mean, I could
Oh,
go
sure.
on and on and on about
Sure.
challenges.
Sure. Well, you mentioned branding and marketing. Like one of the things that you mentioned in your podcast that you offer as part of Next Gen is a done for you marketing strategy, correct?
Yeah, it's some done for you marketing
Material.
materials. It's not truly a done for you marketing
Okay.
strategy. That's something that in the academy, your coach would be working with you on
Gotcha.
because, I mean, if you're running a marketing branding agency, you understand that everyone's marketing strategy needs to be built for their specific
Right.
brand. It's not necessarily a one size fits all approach, but we have a lot of done for you templates, materials that you can pull and you can say, okay, I need to increase trial sales. And you can look in our Connect 3 Academy and you can go, okay, or Connect 3 stuff, and you can go search for trials and you just get a ton of graphics and text and different things that you can utilize to run a Facebook ad or run some other sort of marketing approach.
That, as someone who owns a marketing and branding agency, that's almost worth the value of the coaching
Yeah,
cost alone.
correct. Yeah, it's significantly undervalued.
I mean, good grief. That's amazing.
Yeah, we have I think at this point in time, you get access to more and more as you progress through our system because we try not to overload our clients. But I think there's over 5,000 templates that you can use and edit, focused on different, right? If you want birthday parties, you want trial sales, you want gymnastic sales, you want all-star registrations, the various different ways that you can diversify. Um, there's a lot of there's templates for everything, and you can go in and all the images are either from our gyms or they're stock images, so you don't have any copyright issues. They're all editable, so you can make it so it's your colors, and so you can throw your logo on it so it looks like it's from your gym. And there's honestly so many that even if there's someone in the academy that's close to you, you just pick a different image than they're using.
And
Right.
these are proven materials, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these are graphics and images and copy that we have tested and used in our own gyms to grow. And that's another great thing about the academy coaches and the academy owners is we're all still active in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
We're all still in the trenches in some way, shape, or form. So we're all very current on this. We're living it, we're breathing it, we're doing it. And that also really allows us to move at a higher speed because we're feeling the pulse of the industry. And so you're getting that content. Like at the end of the day, I love all-star cheerleading, right? I am an all-star cheer coach. And so when score sheet questions do come up, as much as I'm like, hey, you need to focus on your business, you better believe I've obsessed over that score sheet and I know how to set up my teams for success.
Right.
So I can also have those conversations, and we have coaches in the group that can do that as well. So we're in there testing, utilizing all of these things in our businesses, proving that they work before we're ever sending them out as things to use for our clients.
You're doing God's work, sir. This is
Well, thank
this
you.
is something that is really needed for gym owners. I wish that I had this available when I owned my gym. I would have found a way to invest in myself and in my coaches.
I mean, I wish I had it when I
Right,
started.
right.
I can only imagine where I would be at.
Exactly.
You know, we're on target to do about 1.5 million this year, and I mean, if you told me in year one that I would be on track to do that, I would have been like, no way, it's not going to happen.
This is
But
in your gym?
yeah, between our gym and our
Wow.
camps, yeah.
Yeah. You don't see many gyms on track for 1.5 million.
No, and I mean, I do have a subsidiary company.
Yeah.
I have Dream Camp, so it's those two combined. But our gym should be at about a 1 to 1.1 this year. That's our projected revenue this year. And Danielle, one of the other owners, she just surpassed it. Shelly surpassed it, and I think Rihanna has too. I think I'm the last owner to break the 1 mil mark.
Wow.
But Uh, and that's our goal. Like our goal is to get all these gyms to that point. Like I want to see owners compensating themselves. And one of the things that gets misconstrued by coaches, right? Because I've had coaches talk to me who are like, have the same mindset, right? I don't want to work so hard for that person to make all this
Mhm.
money. Here's what generally happens. Yes, there are absolutely some owners out there who are greedy and who are going to take all the money. But when more revenue comes in, you have more negotiating power to go in and say, "Hey, you see all those classes that I'm teaching that are
Yep.
full, that are bringing in, you know, $5,000 a month, and you're paying me 700. I want to renegotiate." Right. And it gives you some power, but you got to learn how to do that as a coach. You got to know how to go in and present your value. And you got to present it in language that the gym owner is going to see. If you come in as a coach and you go, I want to renegotiate my contract. I won this many trophies last year. I go, good job. That doesn't equal
Yeah.
revenue. Okay. Now, if you come in and you go, I won this many trophies and 95% of my kids eligible to return came back this next year. Okay. Now we're talking about something, right? Retention, that has value. But we've all seen and know coaches that they may win trophies, but kids hate their
Yeah.
life. They don't want to cheer for them. Wins only last so long. Wins are important. We all want to win. But you as a coach, when you see your business, like if you have an owner who needs something like this, recommend it to them. Like, hey, you should go get a business coach. There's this group out here that can help you, because as they build revenue and as they make more money, that money is going to flow to you. It 100% will. And I promise you, as next gen coaches, we advocate for staff as well. Because if you mentioned what's one of the problems gym owners have, aside from things that they can fix, the biggest problems in cheer right now for gym owners are, well, they don't make money or make much money. They cannot find good staff and or retain good staff, which has a direct correlation to they don't make enough money to pay career
Right.
coaches. And number three, they can't find space. Buildings are a nightmare right
Yeah.
now. They are a huge threat to the cheer industry as a whole, because it is becoming harder and harder to find spaces to rent. Now that could shift, but we actually need the economy to crash a little bit for the commercial industry to open up. But right now, distribution businesses are really
Mhm.
popular, right? Everyone's taken up that space that we want, that contiguous space that has no poles and allows us to put in all these cheer floors. That also works real good for shipping and distribution centers. And so we're having to beat those people out to get those
Yep.
buildings.
Yeah. If I work with a real estate agent here, and we were just having a conversation yesterday of commercial real estate is a horrible investment right now because it's so high, and
Mm-hmm.
it's tough to find good space that is needed for cheer because you need so much things. Like you need so many things for a good building. You need floor space. You need the right ceiling height.
Yep. You need a 20-foot. You need a 20-foot clear height.
Yeah.
You need at least 42 by 54 of uninterrupted space. You can put in a full, if you want to do a 9 panel. You ideally want a decent lobby that you can bring people into and have sales meetings. You want an office. It needs to look
Hmm.
okay. You want bathrooms that aren't out in the warehouse area, but also in the lobby. Like there are so many factors, and you can find those spaces, but they are a pretty
Yeah.
penny.
Yeah. Profitability is, I think you hit the nail on the head talking about that. If gym owners can find a way to make money and find a way to make profit, most gym owners will share that with their good staff. But you
100%.
have to learn how to communicate that. And you have to learn you need to learn the language and the delivery on how to approach your gym owner with that. Um,
Yep.
and that's one of the things that you teach, correct?
Uh, we don't teach it to staff
Okay.
typically. We talk to owners, but we don't. Staff don't join the academy. We specifically consult the owners. Um, be happy to do a little collab with you though to set something up to teach coaches how to
Sure.
negotiate. Um, so we can maybe add something to the cheer coaching academy, help you out a
Okay.
little bit. Um, but yeah, you do need to learn the language, and you do need to learn how to like pitch yourself. Um, and at the end of the day, you just got to understand that gym owners are coming from the perspective of, how does this help me pay my rent? Right? Like that is where at least 60 to 70% of the gym owners in the country are at
Mm-hmm.
right now, is how do I make enough money to just break
Yeah.
even, to pay my rent and pay my staff, and maybe pay myself a little bit of extra money at the end of the month. I mentioned on the podcast that you listened to in response to that
Mm-hmm.
whole thing, like the average effective hourly rate that we see when people are coming in and joining our academy is anywhere from like 35 cents to $1.50 an hour for a gym owner, which means if they were to take the amount of hours they work versus how much they compensate themselves, it's somewhere around like 35 cents an hour. And that's not even factoring in previous investments in previous years where they probably got paid zero.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I've had conversations with gym owners who, when we first are looking at that and we're calculating it, and they're like, oh, I don't pay myself anything, they're totally fine with it. They have no problem when it says zero. But the moment we're like, well, actually, it does pay for my cell phone and it does pay for this, so that would be, $500 a month or whatever. And they see that it's now like 10 cents an hour, that actually hits
It
different.
does.
Being like, I'm just a volunteer, I do this because I love it, to, oh no, my value is 10 cents. That's when the waterworks happen and people are like, oh my God, I've got to change this. Because you do. Like, you got to value yourself just like you would value an employee. Yeah. My podcast episode this week was My Boss is a Jerk. And I was talking about me to me, right? I'm a jerk boss to myself. Yeah. I treat myself worse than I would treat any employee ever. I have more demand, more expectation, no exception of failure, right? Like, I'm so much harder on me than I would be to one of my staff members who I'd be like, it's okay, it's no problem, we'll get through it, right? But you make a mistake and you're like, idiot, right? You would never expect a staff member to stay up until midnight working on a project. You'd be like, no, just do it during your hours. That's when you're supposed to work.
No one will ever care about your business more than you will.
No, and that's okay. That's okay. And that's some gym owners, like coaches, it is okay that you don't care about the gym as much as the owner. That's okay. It's fine. Just like you as a coach are never going to love someone's kids as much as their parents do. You may care about them a lot, but like you're not their parent, and that's okay. You still love them, you still care about them, but it's okay for there to be a difference. And same, that also goes for gym owners. You can't expect your staff to care about your gym as much as you do. It's an unfair expectation. It is. And I've talked to owners who are like, I don't understand why they won't care as much as me. Because it's not their gym. They may love it, but they're never going to be you. And that's okay.
You can build a culture that people love, and you can build a program and an environment that people fall in love with. But they don't have the skin in the game that you do.
Nope.
And if they did, they would care a lot more. Trust me. But they don't have that financial skin in the game that it takes to open a gym and to own a gym.
Yeah. And that actually, I mean, just because you're kind of bringing it up, that was the conversation, the presentation of a co-op style structure of ownership. Right. That was really Matt's biggest point, was that if you share ownership with your staff, then they will also equally care. And I mentioned, I talked to him in person, and I don't disagree that it might make them care more, but I don't think it truly solves that problem. Because even when, like, you say, okay, well, you as a gym owner, your coaches are never going to care as much as you. True. But also you're different human beings, right? So like I said, I work with a lot of gym owners. Some gym owners care at different levels about their gym.
Yeah.
So just giving, if you were to like, oh, well, if I just give my staff ownership or some partial ownership, they're going to care just as much as me. Not necessarily. They might not, because that might not be them, right? People value different things. Some staff value money. Some staff value their time off. Some staff value the win and the competitive aspect. Some people value the community. So everyone has different things that are important to them. And if you just think, well, by giving you this partial ownership, you're going to care just as much as me, not necessarily. Not at all.
Yeah. And that goes along with some of the things that we go over in Cheer Coaching Academy, and it's getting to know your staff and their personality, their temperament, what makes them, what drives them. Is it
Yep.
money? Is it appreciation? The more you know that, the more you'll be able to show them how much you do care about them.
Yep. And it's the same. I mean, it's the same thing as a coach for your athletes,
Exactly.
right? You need to understand how your athlete operates, because I tell my teams this all the time. Hey guys, you're coaching me how to coach you.
Yes.
Right. So if you only do what I'm asking you to do when I am in your face and I yell at you and I lose my temper, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, now we'll try and hit our stunts. You're teaching me that I need to do that all the time. And that's not the coach I like to be. Or when you only execute when there is a consequence. Hey, if you don't hit this, we're going to do 20 burpees. And then they hit. Hey guys, you're coaching me that I have to have consequences for you. When you there's all those things. So you have to learn your athletes too, and learn what they respond to. Not every athlete responds to rewards. Not every athlete cares about the win. Not every, they all have different motivations.
Exactly. Think of it like, you do have some athletes who you can push, you can get in their face, and you can push them a lot more than you can the ones sitting right next to them. They need to be pushed in a whole, you can't single them out. You can't use them as an example, or they will shut down. And every kid's different. I came up in the era of coach everyone the same across the board. And that wasn't right. Especially today, you can't coach everybody the same. You can have the same rules for everybody.
Same expectations.
Same expectations, but you can't coach everyone the same.
Yep. Oh, 100%. I actually had this conversation with my Worlds kids this last year. We were at Worlds, and they were like, hey, we want you to hold everyone more accountable this year. I was like, hey, I'm down. I was maybe a little bit lax a couple times, but that applies to you too, right? It's not just everyone else. Well, I feel like you yell at me more than you yell at everyone else. Well, that's not entirely true. You just give me a lot more corrections. Okay. Because, and this particular athlete, I go, what happens when I call you out in front of everybody? She goes, it pisses me off. And I go, right. And then what happens? Well, then I generally hit it. Right. What happens when I call out and I use this other athlete? What have you ever seen me call them out in practice? Not too much. And I go, because I have once, and they completely shut down, and the rest of practice was wasted. Do you ever notice me talk to them on a water break when you guys all break and then I call them over? Well, yeah, I'm talking to them. They're getting held accountable, but I have to coach you all differently because you all give me different responses. When I talk to you one-on-one, it makes no impact, but your pride, that one works.
Yep.
So just know that that's why. And some people would say, well, don't tell the kids that, because then they know you're playing them. I'm an open book. You want to know how I'm coaching? I will tell you exactly how I'm coaching.
There's a big difference to me, that's, and you may agree or disagree, but to me, that's borderline manipulation, coaching that way, or not telling them because you want them to perform. But to me, that's showing them that you care. And as a coach, or as an athlete, they'll never care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's an old saying, but
Yep.
it's so true.
I'm with
It
you.
is so true. That's so when I look back over my coaching career, and I just went over this study about there's 4 different temperaments in the study.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went over that, that's what punched me in the gut, because how many times did I coach an athlete a certain way, like everybody else on that team? And how much did that cause them to shut down and maybe even lose their love of the sport? Not even just
Mm-hmm.
my team or my gym, but the love of the sport. How
Yep.
much impact did that have on them long term?
Yep.
And it's very possible that it did. And like, I got choked up about it, because if I knew that happened, it would just devastate me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was so important for me to put that into CCA, because if I can help another coach have that mindset going into it, then maybe they can coach differently, you know?
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I recently started reading this book last year, and I actually have it right next to me, and I have my highlighters in it because I go to it so much. It's called The Coach's Guide to Teaching,
Mm,
and it's by Doug Limov. And it's very analytical. So if you're not, it reads like a textbook. And it uses soccer references. So it does require some backwards extrapolation. Which I actually had all of my head coaches we read this together last year, and they struggled. So I realized, as a coach, right? I'm learning how to coach. I'm learning how to coach my coaches. I need to parse this out and communicate it to them, because they were like, I don't know what this is
yeah.
talking about. But there's a passage in it early on where they're talking about investing. They're talking about evaluating a professional baseball group, and they were like, the coaches are investing and making each athlete know that they are invested in that athlete's success, and that's getting buy-in from those kids. And I started thinking about, kind of like you did, how many kids are out there that they don't ever get coached. Like, they're on your team, but they don't get coached because they're not the problem and they're not the star. They just show up and they do their
Yeah.
job, right? But how often are you talking to the kid who's there doing their job? It's actually rare, because there's nothing to tell them. Hey, good job, you hit it, right? They're not getting that coaching because they're not pushing the envelope trying to do something new, and they're not an issue. They're not late, they're not on, out of sync, they're not getting bad grips. And so the kids who are actually getting yelled and screamed at sometimes are getting more attention than your kids who are doing everything you ask
Mm-hmm.
of them. And so that was something we talked about with our staff a lot. We were like, man, we got to make sure that these kids who we rely on know that we're also invested in their success, and they're not just a cog in the wheel. And it's like, here I am, I show up, I do everything, and coach doesn't care about me.
Right. They could see it as, I do my job, I show up every day, but they don't like me. They don't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's devastating to them, because they put everything they have into it in their own way.
Yep. I'm here, I show up, I don't miss practice, I hit my stunts, I land my tumbling. You don't talk to me.
Yeah.
You spend all your time talking to that kid over there who doesn't throw their skills, or that kid over there who was late to practice. And you, as a coach, you're not doing anything wrong, right? You're trying to correct the issues. It's literally what you have
Right.
to do. But you got to figure out that path of, how do you make sure that each kid feels valued? And it can be as simple. I've tried a number of different things. I think you have to tailor it for you and what works well for you. If you're a person who likes lists and likes checklists and things like that, then make a checklist with each one of your kids' names on it. And at the end of practice, did I actually have a meaningful interaction with this athlete? Check, check, check. And then you can know, oh, I haven't had a meaningful interaction with this athlete this week. I should make a point to. if you can't if you can't intentionally seek out an athlete within a 2.5 hour practice or 2 hour practice or whatever it is, and have some sort of intentional 2 minute interaction with that athlete, then that athlete probably shouldn't be on that team because they're just a
Yep.
nugget, right? Like, you probably placed them in the wrong group, because you should be able to find something to have a meaningful interaction with that athlete. And maybe the interaction is just, hey, how are things going at school? Or like, it doesn't always have to be about cheerleading.
That's a great opportunity to learn more about them and their home life and their school life and what they're dealing with there, because you never know when that can start affecting your practice.
And it will.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will.
It will.
Yeah, that's the worst. I always hate when those kids don't tell you those things that are going on. I had this happen this year. Gosh, and I love this kid. She's great. She flew on my level 4 and my level 6 team. And she came to practice. My level 4 practice is first, my level 6 practice is second. And she could not hit anything in our level 4 practice, like anything. And she normally can hit. And I finally lost it with her. I'm like, what are you? You're a world's athlete and you are dropping these basic stunts. Get it together. Like, you are not focused. You're not here. Like, what is going on? She comes to level 6 practice and the same thing's happening. And I'm like, what? I like pull her over. I go, what is going on? Like, what is up? Well, we put my dog down right before practice. I'm really sad. I'm like, dude, you got to tell me these things.
Yeah.
And now I feel like a total a-hole because I went off on her and, did the little side hug, safety hug, like, hey, I got you. Like, you got to tell me these things. She was like, okay, I'm like, I'm sorry. That really sucks. Like, do your best. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Because we've all had those kids who call in and go, my dog died. I don't know if I'd go to practice if my dog died, to be completely honest. Like, I love my dog.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
So, those moments, but part of that is she was a new athlete to our program this year. And we had a decent connection, but like, she just didn't know me that well yet. And she's a little shy. So I don't think she was comfortable with it. Where I have other kids who would come up to me, the first thing they say is, I had a fight with my boyfriend today and I'm so pissed off. I'm like, gotcha. Thanks for letting me know. I generally say first, well, boys are D-bags and you shouldn't date them. But that's my general response to boyfriends.
Building that relationship. And I bet you from here on out, whatever happens to her, she knows that she can come to you.
I hope so.
Right. And the thing is, like, as coaches, we have to develop a safe space for them. These kids have to know that when they come to the gym, it's a safe space.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
they can be vulnerable and say, look, my dog just died. Without you saying, you know what, suck it up, buttercup, line it up from the top.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's not what we're trying to tell you to do here. Let your gym be a safe space. We coach more than cheer. And as much as we're involved in cheerleading, there are bigger things outside of that gym that these kids deal with day in and day out. And it's so important that they know that when they come to you, they're safe. And
actually, I had a really great conversation with Jeff Benson about creating a psychologically safe environment in your gym. There's good resources out there for that, but absolutely, like, coaches, that's our responsibility. Like, we need to, yes, we are training cheerleading, but if you're training cheerleading and you're not focused on how to safeguard these kids and how to build them up, then you've got the wrong priority, right? And that's something that our industry sometimes does get wrong, is we prioritize the win as opposed to prioritize the journey and how valuable the journey to achieve the win can be to creating good kids. And that's not to say that you can't be tough on kids. In fact, I'm a big believer that a lot of gyms have gone too far away from structure and expectation and need to get back to that. And maybe not a lot of gyms, but our society as a whole, certainly, I feel a lot of times has gone away from clear expectations and holding kids accountable. Kids thrive in that environment. They really do. if they know what the expectations are, they're held to those expectations. Oftentimes they're going to rise to those. If you truly lead them and you truly inspire them, they're going to rise to that level. And the same thing goes for your staff. The amount of people that are like, kids these days, can't find any good staff. These darn, for a while it used to be millennials. That used to be the conversation. These dumb millennials. I'm technically a millennial by like a year or two. And now it's all the millennials being like, these Gen Zers or just or is it Gen Z? Whatever they are. These guys, they don't know what they're talking about. They're so difficult to coach. And it's like, no, you just got to learn to lead them. You got to inspire them and you got to hold them accountable.
So at the end of every episode, and we'll wrap up because I know you've got things to do and you're a busy man. But at the end of every episode, I always leave a button on this and say, legacy outlasts applause. And I firmly believe that, because what we do as coaches lasts long after a world championship, lasts long after winning a national championship. We 100%. Impact these kids every day. And the impression that we leave on them might either send them into coaching and they can leave that same impact on those kids, or even in their families. We have 100%. Such a huge responsibility that we deal with every day with working with kids. And the impact that you make without even realizing it is so valuable.
Massive. Yeah. A lot of us are coaches because we had a coach in our lives that did that for us.
Exactly.
That's literally, I mean, early on in my coaching career, when I would, we do at our camp stuff, we do kind of a deep conversation. And one of them was like, what is one of your goals? And for me, my goal was always, I want to impact a kid as much as my coach impacted me. And I feel like I've accomplished that goal. But I'm here because of it was my gymnastics coach, but he truly inspired me to not just be a gymnast, but be a better person. Like that was what I took away from that. And so you're right. Like we have such an amazing responsibility. And quite frankly, to full circle it, that's why we believe so passionately in helping gym owners figure out how to do this thing right. Yeah. Because what we're doing is so critical. It's so important to be able to provide this psychologically safe environment where kids can come and learn a sport that involves true teamwork in a co-ed environment. We are the only truly co-ed intermixed sport in the world that is like designed for it. There's no others, like you have co-ed soccer, but like for the most part, they're not built that way. We have literal divisions built to men and women, male guys and girls being on the mat together. And like, that's a whole different dynamic, which is incredibly valuable for life. Right. So there's so many cool nuances. And if we don't help gym owners figure out how to run their businesses well and pay their staff well, pay their bills and pay themselves, we're going to continue to see the gyms closing, people not being able to continue. And that's missed opportunity. And so that's why that's really our biggest driving passion, is to help gym owners be financially successful, find that joy, find that success, find that freedom to continue to do the really, really important work of coaching cheerleading, coaching gymnastics, building kids up through this amazing sport.
I can't think of a better way to end it than that right there. Dan, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Incredibly busy, but thank you for taking the time to share all that.
It's my pleasure.
Like I wasn't joking. Like, you're doing God's work, and I think that the service that you offer gym owners is crucial to the success of this industry, and that can help them impact their kids because they can stay open to impact their kids.
Yep.
And I think that's, it's needed. So thank you for doing what you do. And also, I want to say this earlier, thank you for your service as well.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been my honor.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Go check out Dan's podcast. And where else can they find you? on social and everything?
So they can find Next Generation Gym Owners on Instagram, on Facebook. We have All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners Facebook group that's open to any cheer coach and or owner. There's no spam, no marketing, none of that. Don't bring that stuff to our group, please. But if you're a coach or an owner, lots of discussion in there. If you're a gym owner or a program owner, we have our cheer and gymnastics gym owners group. That's just for owners, no coaches at all. If you really want to find just me, I'm horrible at Instagram, so like you can follow me. But it's ODT Coach Dan. I'm trying to get better at posting more content, but I'm so busy posting to my businesses that I don't generally post to my like personal, which is really a business one anyways too. But yeah, and it's Dan Cotton. You can find me on Facebook. I'm always down for a good conversation. So if you have questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm happy to chat with people. If you want to reach me by email, it's dan@nextgenowners.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Coaches, gym owners, as I said before, legacy outlasts applause. So go impact someone's life in a positive way today.